Peace Seeker, welcome to the Awakening Her podcast. I am so grateful that you've been led here, and I'm excited for you that you're answering the call to manifest more magic in your life by mastering the law of attraction. So cool. My name is Talia, and I'm committed to cutting the fluff and showing you exactly how to manifest more excitement, ease, success, abundance, confidence, love, and anything else you've been craving. So if you're ready to crack the code on manifestation, amplify your intuition, and play in the quantum, we are now besties. Let's do this. Hello, Krishnanand. Welcome to the show. I am so excited you're here. How are you?
I'm very well, and thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Cool. I am so excited what we're going to get into today. I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed. I have been studying near-death experiences since it was basically creepy. I was so young reading about people dying and coming back, and my mom's like, "What are you doing?" But I have been so fascinated with NDEs since I was young, and it's just drawn me in. I've read hundreds of stories, and I think it's so interesting how they're all unique, including yours. I cannot wait to talk about this. And how it changed their life, what they experienced. I'm just the person, I want to go knee deep and hear about it all and everything that's happened since. So welcome to the show. Can you just introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit about you. And yeah, let's just start there.
My name is Krishnanand. That's a name that my Jagat Guru Kripalu gave me in 2010, long before my NDE. And I go by that full time now since the NDE. And I'm a lifelong mystic and spiritualist, been involved with these things since I was a child, literally 3-4 years old, fascinated by all the spiritual and mystical things, and took it very seriously. So by the time I was a preteen, I was already studying and scholarly and practicing things and really deep into it. I mean, it was more than just a hobby. I was very fascinated. So I really was very much into it and always have been all my whole life.
That's really cool. How were your parents spiritual at all? Like, how did you find it from that young age?
Good question. Yeah, my dad is kind of an average, kind of working class kind of guy, really great guy. My mom was the neighborhood witch. She was definitely kind of into all these things, and she was very psychic. I used to think she was just like a smart mom because moms just know your stuff. No, she was very psychic. And so she had me around those things early on. And so I'm just doing what I saw. So like she had people coming over, she was reading tarot and doing scrying sessions with them. And I was just a little kid. And so I'd walk by the crystal ball and saw what I saw. And soon there people coming to see me reading for them. And I was a little boy. So yeah, I was kind of brought up in it somewhat, but early on, honestly, between me, you, and the lamppost, I felt that I needed to go further and farther and deeper than my mom ever could even begin to scratch the surface of. She was very deep and mystical and psychic, but I needed the true eternal truths of mysteries. And I delved deep and deep, went down the rabbit holes.
Wow. So in your 20s, when a lot of people were partying, you were with gurus, or were you partying and then also
Oh no, I was definitely dropping my LSD and getting loaded. Oh no, I was partying for sure, but
you were seeing spirit while you were doing that.
Oh yeah, the difference is that all of the partying, I wasn't just having a good time. For me, it was all mystical journey. I was on exploration, psychedelics, etc. For me, were an exploration of consciousness and other layers of reality. And so I was known in my peer group as the spiritual one, the philosophical one, the guy to talk to when you're like really tripping balls, really want something fun to talk to, So again, I wasn't the guy just having a good time. It was always deep for me. And so I was still partying, doing all that stuff too. I was a very notorious drug addict and criminal. And yet I was also had very deep layers because again, I was always attracted to it and drawn to it and studying it and practicing it. And I took it very seriously. While many friends that I met were kind of casually interested and thought it was more like a trend or a fad, a fascination they had temporarily, for me, it was very serious along all the time.
I can resonate so deeply with that. When it became a little bit more common knowledge after The Secret, like in recent times, when more people are talking about law of attraction, all that, I started to feel like, Well, yeah, like I've always seen energy like that in the way of like what, we attract who we are being and how malleable reality is. And sometimes when you see these trends and these fads, it's almost like, well, yeah, we're dipping into some of the truth here, but it's not
Sure.
a passing thing. It's like how I see life. And I have since I can remember.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure you have the similar experience where you see people waking up and cluing into these things again. So part of my frustration with my NDE, which you'll hear about, is that I was already very spiritual and very deep in practicing. I wasn't just reading about it all my life. I was practicing it. I was a third-degree ceremony magician. I was a master alchemist through from college. And so I was taking it very seriously, practicing, doing these things. And so part of the frustration for me is my NDE, which you'll hear about, was very challenging. And it wasn't over in an instant. It was something that went on and on and on for a long time and still does in many ways, some of the hard parts and the fun parts. And so in a similar way, yes, it can sometimes be a little lonely, you could say, a little isolating to see that people are kind of cluing into these things where I'm like, that's been before my whole life. Like I'm not new to that. I'm not stranger to that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm grateful and glad when I see people kind of waking up, but at the same time, it can be a little bit like it's not new to me.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you're
Mm-hmm.
remembering it, and everybody that starts to spiritually awaken, they feel like they're remembering something, not learning something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you for sure. That's really neat that you've been in this your whole life. And I'm sure it just set the stage. I sometimes think of my mom being a Reiki master and, being around ceremony and stuff when I was young. And I thought it's the perfect plan for this stuff to be familiar to me from the beginning. Doesn't mean I didn't struggle, doesn't mean I didn't lose my way at some times, but it's almost like it was so familiar. I didn't have to find it for the first time, even in
Mm-hmm.
this lifetime. It's like
Yeah.
I got to pick up, like it was normal to buy sage when I had my first apartment. I know it's such a trivial example, but I just mean that way of looking at life as energy. It was already familiar. So anyway, enough about me. I want to hear about your NDE. So do you mind sharing a little bit, like leading up to that point, of course, what happened and just everything you want to share?
How about I tell you about the event itself?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I'm a private practice counselor, and I still am somewhat. I'm mostly retired from that now. And I'm working in my office, and I am back to back with clients all day. And I'm involved with crisis, very deep, intense stuff, and spiritual journeys for other people as well. And I'm loving my work. And occasionally, someone would reschedule, one or two people, maybe three in a row, back to back, suddenly rescheduled. And I'm like, I got like 4 hours to kill. What am I going to do? I didn't bring any backup work to my office because I thought I had back to back clients all day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Now I was already working on one of my other books, and there was some very kind of risky research there because it was about drugs and all kinds of psychotropics and things. And I agreed with my publisher that I'd go to get a physical, and I was overdue. So I decided to go up the street to the clinic and get a physical. If two clients had rescheduled that day, I would have stayed in my office because it was three. If there would have been one more, anything beyond that made me suddenly say, what am I going to do? So I decided to go with this to the clinic. I go downstairs, and that particular day I rode my motorbike to work. It's a very unusual Italian motor scooter, very unusual, 500cc. And 7 years in that office, Talia, right? Talia.
Mm-hmm.
7 years in that office, Talia, and not once in those 7 years had I ever left that office and turned right out of the garage. Because to the right was intersections and traffic lights, and to the left into town was side streets and quiet travel. To this day, I will never know why. That particular day, I turned right instead of left, but I did. It's going to get a little intense. I'm going to get a little emotional. Less than half a mile away, about 3 blocks from my office, there's a traffic signal, and I got into the left turn lane. I'm the only person in the left turn lane, and I get a green arrow just for me. I ease out to make a left turn. And a full-size SUV went through the light, hit me in the face, killing me instantly. Dead on the street, mangled, bloody, and dead. Now understand something, Talia, that I didn't have the OBE, out-of-body experience, looking down and seeing over the scene of the accident. I literally was like, I catapulted. My consciousness said, I don't need to fucking be here anymore, and I left. I was like, I do not need to be here for this whatsoever. I'm gone. I get to go somewhere else. So this is my opportunity. So I immediately bolted from the scene. Meanwhile, back on Earth, on one corner is a tire shop. And in front of the tire shop is a pastor on the phone. And I didn't find this out till years later. And he and I spoke just a few years ago. He and I spoke. He said, the only reason I was there that day is because my daughter begged and pleaded with me to go with her, get her tires on her car. And I was like resisting. I didn't want to go. I was too busy. Last minute, I gave in. He was outside on the phone while she was in there getting her tires on. He was the first on the scene, pulling me from the wreck. I was bleeding from my nose, my eyes, my mouth, and my ears. And I was dead. And he figured God put him there for a reason as a pastor. And he began reading me my last rites to send me to heaven. Meanwhile, on the other corner is a Jack in the Box restaurant. The front of the drive-through line with two paramedics getting lunch. Had they been in the back of the line, I would not be here. Had they wanted tacos instead of burgers that day, I wouldn't be here. Because they saw the scene, they saw the accident occur while it happened right in front of them. They're like less than 50 yards away. They're on the scene in moments, bring my body back to life. Now I'm choosing my words carefully. I say my body back to life. My consciousness was gone. I don't know what's happening. I wasn't watching, I wasn't seeing any of it. I found all this after the fact. Behind the Jack in the Box is a DMV. There's a young man in the parking lot of the DMV, and he's calling my son. He's my son's best friend.
Okay.
And he says, Brandon, your dad's been in an accident. And he says, how do you know it's my dad? He goes, his bike. Nobody has a bike like that. I'm telling you, it's your dad. He's going to an ambulance right now. They're taking him to the hospital. This kid has doesn't live anywhere in the area. He was only there for one reason, for that DMV, for one appointment. Otherwise, my family would never know that I was in the hospital, because all my shit went flying from the bike. The emotions come, Talia, because I don't like to be a source of pain. And I know that moment when my son gets this call, I'm a source of pain. The paramedics, I'm in a stage 3 Glasgow coma. Let me tell you what that is. That's synonymous with death. Literally, you can Google the hell out of this. When you're in stage 3 Glasgow, paramedics and EMTs shrug their shoulders and say, it's up to God now. There's nothing they can do. It's synonymous with death. I remain in a coma for 9 days. The entire 9 days that I'm in a coma, I'm totally conscious on the other side. Don't know what's going on Earth and don't care. I'm peaceful. I'm content. I'm not blissful. I'm really in a neutral state within the portal, what I call the portal now. And I am bodiless. I'm just consciousness, just raw, pure consciousness without ego or identity. And it's content. So the 9 days that I'm in a coma, my consciousness is there, and I wake up from my coma on my birthday. So it becomes a little bit hard to deny. I mean, I've even literally had atheists that I've told this story to, and they're like, okay, paramedic on one corner, pastor on the other, wake up on your birthday. You got to be making this up, and it's all documented. And it just keeps happening one after the other. Now, even after when I woke up from the coma, I did not know my name, did not know what a hospital was, didn't know who my son was. They put these two people in front of me in the hospital and said, do you know who these are, who these people are? And I said, no. And actually, I didn't say no because I couldn't speak yet. I could not articulate language. It was my partner of 10 years and my son, who was 20 at the time. I didn't know anything because basically my identity was deleted. When I said I didn't know how to walk, I would say literally like I never learned, like I did not know how. I had to learn from scratch how to talk and walk. Even as I was released from the hospital about 30 days later and went home, the first thing that happened when I got home, for example, is I'm sitting on a couch and I'm looking at a room and my son says, how's it feel to be home, Dad? And I said, I know intellectually that this is my fish tank and this is my wall and that's my front door, but none of it feels familiar to me because it's like I've never been there before. Now, we're not talking about amnesia. Amnesia is a different quality, different feature altogether. What I'm saying to you is it wasn't like I forgot it. It was like I never, ever knew. My identity was deleted. Now, let me back up for a moment. The actual first words I articulated in the hospital was when I looked at this son and partner person, which I didn't know what a wife or a girlfriend was. My first words were, how'd you guys get to London so fast? Now, that makes me seem like I'm brain injured and delusional. And that makes sense. However, that's not what was happening. My last lifetime, I was in London. And so because of being within the portal and the accident, all the thing that was happening, my identities were confused. I could not differentiate. And everybody that I saw, from the nurses to my son says his name is Brandon. And I'm like, why are you calling yourself Brandon? You are Brandon, but you're all these other identities from multiple lifetimes. So I'm seeing people with a string of identities from multiple lifetimes, seeing their soul. I'm not seeing them as people. So when I said, what are you doing? How'd you guys get to London so fast? It's because I thought I was in London. I'm not saying think like I was in London. Now, keep in mind that I'm in a hospital. All I had was 4 walls and a window somewhere over there. So there's no really any way to differentiate, but I didn't know anything about anywhere that I was. I didn't have any logistics. Now, as time goes on, as I learned how to walk and talk from scratch, which was brutal, the moment I'm asleep, which was a lot in the early days because I was virtually comatose, I was vibrant and very well aware and awake within the portal. My body, I was dead to the earth, dead to the world, didn't know anything what was going on there. My conscience was dormant in the world, but it was completely active and awake within the portal. And yet when my body would wake up here in the world, then my consciousness would be split between the two. I'd be 70% there and 30% here. So it's very hard to, you could say, have equilibrium. I am hovering between 2 dimensions at one time, and I can't relate to anybody. Nobody can relate to me. I don't even know what's happening to me is unusual. I don't even know that. I can't perceive that. For me, what I'm experiencing is totally normal. And I'm wondering, why aren't other people seeing these spiritual dimensions like I am? Like literally, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you can try, like, I don't know what they're experiencing. This persisted to this magnitude of 30% of my consciousness within both realms for 4 years. Now, for many people, initially they might think, well, that sounds wonderful to be in a spiritual state of consciousness most of the time. Sure, except when you're trying to live in a physical world.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about a fish out of water. Now, keep in mind that even though I had already told you that I spent my whole life already studying and being a spiritualist, I didn't remember any of this. My identity, my memory was deleted. I didn't know how to walk or talk. So anything that I knew of these things was more intuitive. I had no practical sense of it. I was learning how to read as a grade schooler. Now, keep in mind that Scott Spacky, who died in that accident, he was an advanced student since 2nd grade. So I was well educated and well read quite well, and I couldn't do any of these things. So again, the phenomena that seems to set my NDE apart when I finally started to learn about it, which, by the way, at that time, is in spite of all my mystical training, I didn't know what NDE. If I'd heard of it, never stayed. I didn't know much about it, and I didn't learn about it until the year 4 of my NDE, which was ongoing in a very intense way. And this is when one of the directors from the IANS, International Association of Near-Death Studies, at the Seattle convention, suggested to me, he said, have you ever considered that why your NDE was so phenomenal and so unique and different than most other people's, because you already had all this practical spiritual work in your past? I said, I didn't know anything. So that sounds like a good theory. So we kind of surmised, now I can see that's probably the case. The events and features of my NDE completely set me apart from so many so I was already set apart as a spiritualist before. Now I'm set apart from NDEers too. I'm having this phenomenal experience that many of them don't even have. Now, you may be familiar with the term past life review. I mean, with life review of the ND phenomena, where your life passes before your eyes. While I wasn't having a life review, I was having multiple life reviews. While I was over there for 9 Earth days within the portal, I was having like a cinema portraying before me hundreds of lifetimes of my past. And as I communicated with these, what I call Akashic agents, it was explained to me that because of my spiritual work, I was kind of qualified, you could say, to have access to these prior lifetimes. And my request was, I don't want to see lifetimes that were just ordinary. I want to see lifetimes only that had to do with my spiritual growth and journey, my soul's journey. So they can see where I went wrong in lifetimes, where I went right, so I can continue to make progress. And that's what I was given. I saw lifetimes over thousands of years portrayed, displayed before me. So that's the short version.
So many things. First of all, thank you for sharing. And I definitely, that makes so much sense because of where you already were. You didn't really need to like in the pearly gates and the guess what, you've had multiple lives. Like, oh, what? You know, like your soul was already there. And that makes so much sense that you would almost be like ready, just like when you end this life and you go on to the next life, you'll be at a certain place compared to 100 lifetimes ago, 1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I also really deeply resonate when you're talking about having yourself 30, 70% in consciousness out there or in the portal. And here, I have not had the experience you have. You, none of us are the same. I don't claim to know the same as you do. However, I feel it's so hard to be human sometimes. And when you said that, there was just something that lit up every cell in
You
my
understand
body.
it very well. Yes, it is. Yes.
It's like being in two different worlds. It's like, what do you mean you're here? It's like, but I'm not here.
No.
And so like the limits of the world get really frustrating. And it's like I can sometimes have, yeah, you probably understand, but it's
But it's so
difficult.
nice. I mean, it's so rare to hear that. So thank you, sister, because that's so rare to hear that somebody truly gets it.
Yeah, I
You're
really
100%
feel like I
correct.
do. Yeah,
I have always felt, listen, my first cognizant thoughts when I was an infant, and I mean barely able to crawl or walk, okay, infant. My first cognizant thoughts were, why do they keep calling me Scott? And why do they say this is my mom and dad? You're not my mom and dad. I don't know who my mom and dad are, but you're not them. Because again, as I entered in this life in 1966, my lines between my last incarnation and this one were so blurred that I did not understand it. So I was confused as to which dimension, which time I was in. It's been going on all my life. So yes, I totally identify and sympathize with this feeling of this awareness of multiple dimensions at once. And so you're trying to act normal and be like everybody else, but at the same time, you're perceiving things that are way beyond them. And you're trying to contain that and keep it normal so it doesn't, because otherwise it makes people uncomfortable. They can't deal with that.
It's not a party trick that's very fun.
No, and you know, I mean, it's kind of like being like on a really kind of non-drug effect, really cool, wild acid trip that just has a lot of beauty and meaning to it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like I'm
It's
tripping balls all the time.
Yeah, but it's like then again, you open your eyes and you realize like you're in a fucking grocery store and everyone
Yes,
else is like, you know, in this physical reality. And it almost kind of is a split. Like you say, people like it, oh, it must be so fascinating to understand or to see life like that. But it's in some ways it's the best, and in some ways it's a
that's
little
right.
bit torturous.
Challenging to say the least. And
Challenging is a good word.
what you just said reminds me when I left LA around my 2.5 year of the accident, and I was going to Washington, ended up in the Puget Sound. Basically, I was going there but to die, because that's what they all told me I was going to do, is that I was never going to make it. And I'd be in the car, and I live way out in the country, right? And I'd be in the car, and then my mind would be within the portal for most of the time. And then suddenly I'd be like, I'd come back into my body and be like, why am I in my car? Where am I going? Like, I don't even know why I'm in the car. And suddenly, as you said, like in the grocery store, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm in a grocery store. How did I get here? One time I'm in the car and I'm driving and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going or why I'm in the car, but it must have been a reason for it. my phone rings. It's my son. He goes, Dad, I'm landing at 12:45. And I go, oh, that's right. I'm going to the airport to pick up my son. Good thing
Yeah.
he called. Good thing he called.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing. That must be really difficult, especially those first bunches of years where you were literally not only learning who you are or what how to walk and all this, but how to
Yeah.
cope with that. Like
But you know,
how
you try to have fun with it, right? You try to laugh at it. I mean, and not even try, like, instead of being like all terrified, like, why am I in a car? Like, how did I even get here? I mean, it literally would just be like, I don't remember even getting in the, I don't remember being here at all. Like it
Mhm.
would come, I like teleport. And so, but I would just laugh. I'd be like, this is wild. Like everyone else is just like walking through the grocery store, buying their food, getting their groceries. Me, I'm having this like really wild experience that I can't even mention to them, you know?
Yeah,
Like
everyone's like,
boring.
"Oh,
What you're doing is boring.
yeah, totally."
So yeah,
You're all
it never scared me or got me down. I was like, this is a trip. This is really bizarre, you know?
wow, yeah, crazy. So when you were in this portal and the parts that have come back with you that have validated, what you were already studying or anything new that you learned there, what do you feel sort of coming back that it's I like to ask healers and light workers almost like what do you want to scream from the rooftops that people either aren't seeing or that they need to recognize, especially those people that are starting to awaken that are really open to this type of message? Like what is it that we're missing or that we need to
Okay.
know? Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Again, the irony is that it's the same message from the rooftop that I was giving since before this ever happened, since for my whole life, which was stop pursuing happiness within the world because you can't get it from that. The only way, and they don't even go within, go beyond without. The only happiness, joy, anand, bliss is within the spiritual dimension of pure divinity. And so there's only two phenomena: the material, worldly, and the spiritual, the divine. Two phenomena. That's it. If it ain't God herself, then it's the world. Take your pick. You're either doing one or the other. Now we have to live within the world. I get that. I do too. I got to eat. I got to exercise. I got to sleep. All these kind of things.
Got to pay taxes. Blech.
Got to pay tax. Got to live with. I'm trapped within the world. I'm trapped within this incarnation, so I got to
Wait,
live
so
within the
can we
world.
transcend taxes? Is that what you're
So,
saying?
no, I'm definitely not saying that.
I'm just
Trust
kidding.
me. If we could, do you think I'd be sitting here talking to anybody? No, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I'd be living on a beach somewhere. Well, I was living on a beach just a little while ago. So, and actually, I am right now, pretty much, pretty close. Anyway, no, it's about to learn how and be willing to surrender your will, your consciousness, your heart to a divine will, Because when you surrender your will to a divine will, the divine will takes over, takes care of things. And so even if it's hard or easy, whatever it is, it has meaning and it has beauty, and that's all that matters. And so I tried to just align my will with the divine will. And so instead of wasting time, so the message really is about the two different phenomena. There's just two. And if it isn't the God power itself, then it's part of the world. And then that's just there to pass the time. Don't bother with it. You do have to live within it. But again, spend your time pursuing and developing your spiritual consciousness, not your material consciousness. That stuff is just filler stuff. Everything else, what you work for, what you work towards is that. And what I teach my students and clients I like to refer to myself as a spiritual fitness trainer. I'm not a guru, I'm not a god, but I'm a fitness trainer. I'm teaching how to develop and become spiritually fit. And this is about knowledge and practice. What I'm always encouraging my students with is it's not just about knowing these things. You've got to put it to work and practice it. And so I'm sure, I don't want you to speak out loud about it, but part of my frustration, if I may, with some of the NDE community is that we have people, whether it's NDE or some type of psychedelic experience or whatever, some kind of phenomenal event in their life that woke them up spiritually, and then they start prognosticating. And I'm thinking, but you didn't study, learn, or practice. Like suddenly you had this, and now you think you're the genius of it. And I've been studying it my whole life. And it takes more to lead people and guide people with these very sensitive areas than just having an event that makes you have a keen perception that you didn't have before. And so we've got to be careful. Be careful who you seek. Be careful who you follow. Be careful who you listen to. Go for the eternal truths. And
Mhm.
that's the real message right there, is go for the eternal truths. What I teach in my as a spiritualist is not my truths. I teach the eternal truths that the Buddha taught, the Shankaracharyas have taught, that the master gurus taught, that the Christ taught. I don't teach my stuff at all. I teach their stuff, the authentic stuff. Then we go down the underground stream, down the rabbit hole, we found the authentic ones.
I hear you. Yes, I hear you. I always use metaphors because that's just the way spirit delivers things through me. And
Sure.
people say, like, oh my goodness, when you say that, it makes sense. I'm like, well, because truth is truth is truth. Like it's
That's right.
macro, it's micro, it's there. Like look around. Yeah, I'm not making it up. I'm not inventing the formula. It's like you'll see it in the trees, you'll see it in the cycles, you'll see the truth in life. You don't have to look that hard. It's not even that
In the
big
micro and the macro.
everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. I
Yeah.
love the oh, go ahead.
And if I may, what you had another good point there is that the reason the spirit realm or dimensions speak to us in primordial figures and symbols and archetypes is because our language is human language. An eternal language is archetypes and images and symbols that can speak a lot.
Mm,
If you go to China and don't know how to speak Chinese, and you say, I want an apple in English, they're going to get confused. If you show them a picture, they're going to get one right away, right?
mhm,
And so the eternal truths are just are given to us in symbols and analogies that can be hard to interpret at first, but once we stay with it, we start to speak that language. And I also look at myself as a fitness trainer and an interpreter. I'm an
mhm,
interpreter. Tarot
mhm,
cards and the things that I work with, these are my tools. I'm there to interpret what these are saying to you.
mhm. Yeah. I look at that like my channel. I'm like, sometimes I'm always interpreting what people's, spirit team, my spirit, whatever spirit in general is sharing. And it's like sometimes it's almost hard to be like, okay, they're showing me this. So it's this energy of it's interpreting energy exactly like you say. And I love that you're saying like it's in everything, the symbols. One avenue of spirituality that really caught me early on is the Tao. And it really resonates with me because Lao Tzu wrote it using nature as the sort of metaphor
Yeah.
of these spiritual truths. And when you're
It's
talking
the
about the earth,
way.
yeah, exactly. The way, right? The waterway. And so when you're talking about these earthly things and not to bother too much with the physical, he calls that the world of the 10,000 things. And I think of that
Mhm.
all the time. It's the world of the 10,000 things, all the shiny distractions, all the
Right.
ego projections, all the really real stuff, and it can hook you, but it's just the world of the 10,000 things. It's not the eternal Tao. It's not the eternal spirit. It's the physical. It's the opposite. It's like you say, it's the ego or it's the divine. It's the physical 3D world or it's the divine. And if it's physical, it's not, I mean, divine created it, but you know what I mean? It's that world of the 10,000 distractions, really. It's not real.
That's the label for it. Yeah, the 10,000 things is that's the material phenomena. And if it ain't the divine phenomena, then it's the material phenomena, and that's all the 10,000 things. And
Mhm.
so, of course, Lao Tzu is brilliant. And so, I'm definitely an Oriental mystic. I mean, I use I Ching daily. I mean, all the time. It's perfect. It's a perfect system. And
Mhm.
again, we can find these all synthesized together. The tarot, the I Ching, numerology, astrology. These are not separate systems. These are all one system that's speaking different dialects of the exact same truths.
Mhm. Mhm. That's why human design is pretty interesting because it combines a bunch of different like modalities like that, astrology, the chakra system, all that. And it's neat because it's a combination because the truth is the truth. It's not
That's
just
right.
it's everywhere, and when we combine these, we get that really incredible fuller, perspective. Oh, this has all been so cool. There's a few things that I wanted to point to. You said something so powerful when you said aligning my will with divine will. And this is so good. Everybody that listens to the show, how much lately I've been talking about how this isn't a vending machine experience. The universe isn't just our sugar daddy to come along and give us what we want. We are here to
No.
grow. We are here to work on behalf of the divine. You are spirit embodied, experiencing itself. And when you said that, it just was like, oh, yes, when we can align our will with spirit's will, with the divine will, also understanding that spirit wants good for us. Spirit wants healing. Spirit wants what we would call abundance or to have community, to have connection. That is divine will as well when it's, especially when we align in that in that way. So I'd love to talk, I'd love to hear your perspective on sort of manifestation versus or coming together with your will being in line with spirit's will, and how we can kind of create that full experience with that perspective rather than gimme vending machine, mentality.
For sure. Again, the mystical modalities that I've been studying and practicing my whole life. Let me give you an example. In the 1300s, a group of mystics created a system. Now, the tarot was technically designed in the 1400s, but it's been around a lot longer than that. Around the 1300s and 1400s, a group of mystics got together and they revealed, they didn't create, they revealed the synthesis of tarot, astrology, numerology together in one system. And they fit like lost puzzle pieces. And I started using the system in my 20s. And then I saw, as a Kabbalist into Judaic mysticism and ceremonial magic and Hermetic mysticism and Oriental, I saw that, well, if these three synthesize perfectly together, then why wouldn't I Ching also with 64 hexagrams? And also, why wouldn't Kabbalah's Tree of Life with the 10 Sephiroth, which is the original version of the tarot deck, why aren't these brought back together? So I did, and it fit perfectly. So when we talk about manifest, that's what these things are about. The process of alchemy, the 7 stages of alchemy: calcination, dissolution, all the way down to coagulate, all the way up to coagulation, is about taking an abstract concept like number values or celestial bodies of astrology, abstract concepts, and distilling them to something potent and powerful to be able to teach and guide you, reveal to you what you need to know when you need to know it, but not as prognosticators of predictions, material things. There's only 2 phenomena, right? Material, the 10,000 things, and then the infinite and eternal. And these things reveal to us not what we need to find within the 10,000 things, but we need to find within the eternal and infinite things. Our path, our way, the way. There's only one way. The Tao is the way. And so we need a path to find our way. All these dialects of different systems teach this one thing, and they're revealing to us how we can manifest. What do we want to manifest? Do you want to manifest a business? Okay, go to a business coach. You want to manifest flowers and plants and vegetables in your garden? Then go to the gardening place. Manifest. Start with an abstract idea, this concept that I want to grow some vegetables. I want to have some salad, and then go and make it a physical thing. Turn that abstract concept into a physical thing by adding your will to it and aligning it with the divine will. So when I want physical things, then I go through the process of manifestation for all of them, whether it's a car, a lunch, a TV show, whatever I'm doing, I got to go through the 7 stages of manifestation. But above and beyond all of that, what I want to manifest is my spirit. I want to strip away all of the material, all of the matter, and just leave pure, raw consciousness and spirit, and that's it. And this is the same process, the same 7 stages, the same what you teach about manifesting something into a physical phenomena that begins at an abstract concept, goes to the same stages. Now, cause that to be introverted instead of extroverted. Take it from the outside in, and then manifest the spirit within. Now, my book, it's my 5th. I was a 6-time award-winning published writer before my NDE. This new book is my memoir, and it's called A Guide to Spiritual Awakening. So it teaches what we're talking about today. I could not explain the NDE phenomena without explaining how it all works. And how it works ended up being a guide to spiritual awakening, to teach you what the mechanics are, how you can use it for yourself. And this started off as a death event where I catapulted within the portal. And years later, is now a physical, I don't have one in front of me, I should have brought it in here, a physical book you can hold and open and read. Now, my version, you can also have it on ebook, you can also have an audiobook, because I recorded it myself. Because some people don't like to read. The bottom line is, this abstract concept, this ethereal, supernatural phenomena has now been put into a manifested physical form so that you can have a relationship with it. So manifestation is about that, isn't it, Talia? It's about making something you can have a personal relationship with. Now, let's go one step further even. I'm getting chills.
I know, me too. I don't even.
Well, that's how you know when you're like channeling something that's not you. Like I'm not the one speaking anymore now. It's like something else that's like.
And I'm just sitting here like.
That's right.
I'm watching.
And it's now I've mentioned I don't like to label a gender onto the God power. Neither do I want to use the universe, because the universe is a set of physics, and I'm a physicist. I'm definitely into physics. But I said earlier, I referred to the God power as a she. There's the chill. Because the loving aspect of the God power is female. And the powerful aspect, the knowledge aspect, and the power aspect is male. That's primordial, that's fine. And what we go back to that central message of what I hope people will start to understand is that as we talk about manifesting something into the physical world so we can have a relationship with it in a real, tangible way, we do the same thing with the God power. She is personified. He is personified. They have character and personality. And when you build a relationship with them, then you can and will see them and feel them, not in some abstract light. And I mean literally skin, nails, hair, face, eyes, the whole bit. Now, I'm not saying that I do. I'm not quite that high up yet. But there's saints and sages that did all the time. And they've explained it to us. Now, when I was having a dark night of the soul, which I've had several, one of my biggest ones, probably 2004. And I, as a trained mystic, searching and practicing all my life already, and I got so frustrated. I'm at a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of this shit. I meditate my ass off. I do Kundalini. I've had a full-blown Kundalini event, a full-blown, like almost killed me. A supernatural life, one after the other. And yet, I'm still seeking and searching perfect spiritual bliss. Fuck this. I quit. You either present yourself to me in person. No abstract, no cloud, no light, no fuzzy shit. No, I want to see you in person, and that's it. And I laid down the law. I wasn't asking, I wasn't begging, I was demanding. And think, well, I'm going to go to hell now. Short story shorter, let's just say that a very unusual day followed that led me to, and I got to again give you this little anecdote. The next day, I'm sharing this with my girlfriend, and I'm throwing a fit. I'm throwing a tantrum. I'm like, God damn it. I threw a magazine across the room, and I said, I'm sick of all this. I'm going to quit. I'm going to start a cult. I have all the spiritual. I'm going to start a cult. That's what I'm going to do. And I threw this magazine across the room. And she calmly and quietly gets and picks up this magazine and goes, here, go to that and shut up. Pointing to an ad that said, Divine Love Consciousness. And there was a woman speaking on this topic in LA. And I went, and led me to my guru, a divine, realized, personified aspect of the God power. Gurus and masters are here all the time. Neem Karoli Baba, of course, is a God realized saint, one with the God power. They're here all the time. My fit manifested. It went through the process of manifestation, and then I was saying, no more clouds, no more fuzzy light, no abstract experience. No, I don't want some psychic phenomena. No, I want the real deal. I want you in front of me that I can touch and feel and smell and see you. And they're there, and they are, and you can. Don't settle for the light. That's a good place to start, but why not have it manifest and personify in pure bliss?
Mm-hmm.
It is the power of your desire. What they say in Sanskrit, vira, V-I-R-A-H in English, vira. Vira means longing. This is the alignment. When you long for the God power in your heart, where it's consuming, the dark night of the soul, where you can't and will not settle for anything less, that's what activates God's grace and has to come to you. They say there's nothing that God can't do. Oh, yes, there is. I can think of one thing that God cannot do. God cannot not love you. Can't. Cannot not love you. God doesn't love you. God is love. And so therefore, there's one thing that God cannot not do, and that's not love you. And the moment you cry out to God and the God power, then she has to come to you. She has no choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's her own rule. That's her own grace. That she has no choice.
Mm-hmm.
So manifest in the physical realm what you want in the spirit.
Mm. That is so powerful. I love how this message is so centralized around like it does not exist outside of you. And that takes like the I am so much deeper. I've had some experiences in the last couple of years where I'm like, holy shit, like I am it, and how much deeper that can go. And just I don't know, it just comes up often with clients where they're looking for more meaning, and spirit shows me like they're looking for that vitality. They're looking for someone to like turn the
Yes.
vibrancy up in their life, to enjoy, to have pleasure. And it's like, yeah, you're seeking more divine. It's like, no, I just need to have more
Yeah.
vacations. No, I just need to make, I'm like, no, you're seeking the divine. That's what is
You're seeking,
yearning
it's right.
inside
When
of you.
you do the right, you're seeking the divine.
Yeah. A
Your
sunny day
vacation
is
is going to
great.
satisfy. You're going to want more after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's so powerful. Wow, this has just been so incredible. I appreciate this so much. I have a question that came up near the beginning of when you started talking about the NDE that it was coming through me. So why in what you have learned, if there is a why that has arrived into your consciousness, why did your identity need to be deleted? Why did you need to go on this path? What was going on that you, yeah, why deleted? Why reboot?
Okay. It's a little personal. Okay. So again, the beautiful thing about the relationship you have with God. Are you still there? Yeah, there we go. There was a little blur in there. The beautiful thing about the relationship is it's so intimate. You're not some abstract or unknown entity to God. God is as close to you as you are now. They say that's in being now. It says your guru is as close to you as you are now. Guru being more of a metaphor in this case, that is any divine personality, any divine aspect. And so I wanted the exact same thing. Why me? Why is this happening? What am I supposed to learn and take away from this? Is that kind of what the question is?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking I'm already spiritually awake and evolved and working my ass off to pursue God and God experience. So why me? And I'm sorry. I think I did lose my way a little bit. Go say the question again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just why did your identity need to be deleted?
Oh, why
To
my identity? Yeah, that's because, yeah, why that particular aspect, that feature, which was really rough, by the way. Listen, I lost everything. I lost soulmate love. I lost tons of stuff that very few people ever encounter, let alone lose. It was rough. The book that tells my memoir and that tells the story and all the science that goes behind it is a dark and tragic and yet triumphant tale. And so the loss of my identity was because Scott was dead. Scott needed to die. Krishnan needed to live without Scott. And so there was a separation of identity and ego. And here's the dark night of the soul that people don't want to know about. First of all, it ain't poetic. It ain't just ethereal and poetic and mystical. It's dark as fuck. And many people don't survive it. You can't put it into words that describe how tragic and dark it can be, the true dark night of the soul. And there were things in my life that need to go. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was living a good, fairly righteous life. I was living a good spiritual life. I was in a career that was focused completely on helping other people evolve and change their behaviors in the world and in their spirit. And yet, what I wasn't doing was the work I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And so Scott needed to die along with all the attachments so that Krishnanand could live. And it wasn't about year 4. I'm sitting there trying for 4 years to revive myself, to learn how to walk and talk and restructure my life and kind of get back where I was, because I was this successful, respectable, fulfilled person with a soulmate love and good father and all these kind of things. And for 4 years, I'm trying to say nothing is working. Nothing. It's all just a tragedy after tragedy. And it was in year 4 that I had this vision. And it was, it's because you're trying to be Scott, stupid, and Scott died. When are you going to start living as Krishnanand? Krishnanand lived, Scott died. So I began to take my Krishnanand name full time, which I'd had already for 3 years. And things changed. I began to heal. I began to move forward. Things started to completely change and shift. So it is said in the Vedas, in the Sanskrit scriptures, be careful what you wish for. Because when God starts to really interact with your life and gives you grace, it can be brutal. God will strip you of everything you know to make you raw and vulnerable. Suffer the little children unto me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And it isn't until we are stripped of our ego is that we begin to be innocent like children. And that varies on your level and your magnitude. I was already pretty involved in my spiritual life. So that means the magnitude of my loss had to be equal to that. Mm-hmm. Well, my supernatural lifetime was already very phenomenal. So therefore, the magnitude of rearranging and stripping me from what I was very brutal, and it had to be. Now, in the current moment, I was grateful from the beginning. I knew that the God power, I knew that it was for my own good. I never once had a crisis of faith. It wasn't that. But I was kind of like, okay, but ease up. I mean, I can't keep handling all this one after the other. Mm-hmm. So be careful what we wish for, because the dark night of the soul that many people are seeking, as you say about seekers, in the beginning stages, we're seeking, we're saying, I don't care what it is, bring it on, bring it to me, bring yourself to me face to face. I don't care what it takes. Be careful what you say, because I said the same thing in another Dark Night of the Soul episode where I was saying, I don't care what it takes. I want to just be with you. Burn me, scald me, destroy me, whatever it takes to take me to the next level. Be careful what you wish for, because once you do that, you can't whistle it back. Mm-hmm. I gave the God power, I gave divine love the green light to destroy my life if that's what she felt she needed to do to bring me to my next levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've experienced that many different times, those desperation, I don't care what it takes. And in our mind, we think I'm just going to take a step up, and then I'm going to be there. That's what I mean, right? I'm ready for the money or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But after that deep, desperate prayer, always comes a massive reopening of a wound. For me, I haven't died in this lifetime yet. But it's a massive reopening of something very deep that I didn't feel ready to face. And it'll be like, well, there you go. It's not just, I'm ready for my next level. Okay, here's the money. It involves a stripping away. It involves a letting go of what you are not, or forcefully unraveling what you are not to expose what you say you want, or what you've always been, that source inside of you. And it isn't easy. That's why people get into this work like glamorous. I'm going to be woke. And then they realize like it's fucking hard. And it's sometimes the self-awareness is crippling, or the experiences, the things that fall away. It's hard. And yeah, I really feel you in that. So, what I would love to touch on before we wrap up, what has life been like since, and what are you up to now? And, if there's any other, those words of wisdom of like, what did you learn, not just in the near death experience, but like you say, since then, that people really, the medicine people really need to know. I'd love to just hear what life has been like since then and what you know now. And
Well, as
yeah.
you mentioned, when you say the stripping away, it ain't like Velcro. It's more like duct tape that's been sitting in the sun on your skin for a long time. So when it gets stripped away, it pulls off some hair, pulls off some skin.
Yeah, some layers.
And so the services that I offer are just that. As you mentioned, you interact with people and you start to cause awakenings for them. And initially they come to you for that. But you as a person who knows what they feel like, you're like, okay, but don't. And I tell my students and clients this all the time. I say, don't say I didn't warn you. I'm warning you now. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you ask for. Because once we start to work together, it will start to happen. I can't stop it once it starts. Once you give me the green light, I'm a catalyst. It's going to start to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, the readings and insights that I give and provide as a service. Now, I should note that, for example, these are donations. They are fee-based in the sense that there is a set kind of a request for them. But I also, given the right person, I don't turn anybody away. So hopefully people don't exploit it. But again, those services, the readings and insights are there. The shift is to help people evolve in their soul's journey. And that's it. People have to apply for these readings, because if they just want to know about a passed on loved one or what happened to their dog that ran away, then I'm not going to get involved. I'm not saying that's not worthy of getting some information on it, just that that's not my area. If you want to learn how to evolve your soul and spirit and your mind and your conscious, then that's where I can come in. Mm-hmm. So that's, again, I think if you're asking, what is the catalyst? What is the shift in all those things? And I would say, I guess that the services, I was already a behavioral counselor, and I always knew that I would be eventually kind of evolving into sharing my spiritual knowledge and truths and eternal truths, because I spent my whole life studying it. And the Akashic agents, as I refer to them, guardian angels, you could say, the Akashic agents said, well, we're tired of waiting. Mm-hmm. So you're going to die and come back, and you better get busy. And if you don't, well, nothing you do is going to work out. So I really wasn't left much of a choice. Again, I didn't write this book until I didn't start writing until year 7. Like, I didn't want nothing to do with it. I was just trying to get it behind me. I was just trying to get through it. And again, a series of visions where basically Akashic agents were like, you dumbass. We're not asking you. We're telling you. Stop writing that book and write this one. And once I know what the message is, I'm like, okay, like, I'm not going to ask like why or anything else. Like, okay, and I did. It says in the beginning of the book that I don't say that I'm the actual author of this book. I'm the scribe, the author, true author and engineer of the events and phenomena that takes place is the spiritual realm, the God power herself, the Akashic agents. They're the ones that design and orchestrated the entire. I couldn't put a pastor on one corner, paramedic on the other. I couldn't do that. Wake up on my birthday. Come on, I couldn't do that. Even though I was a great fiction writer, which I'm not. I'm a narrative, and so it's those missions, how it changes you and what direction you go to that's different. Is I was leading up to being the spiritual teacher and mentor eventually. Mm-hmm. And the Akashic agents and the God power was like, you're not leading up to it. It's going to happen now. Mm-hmm. And again, even then I was ignoring, I wasn't listening until they left me no choice. I mean, they can really wreck your life if they want to, if you give them permission. So, I was like, I better do what they say. And yeah. I don't mean that in a bad way. The tragedies were always beautiful. They were always, they were so surreal. It was hard not to marvel at the creativity that God would put into it. If nothing else, it's like, well, that's creative. Again, the paramedic, that's sure creative. That doesn't say nothing else. That's very creative. Mm-hmm. Makes you very special. Mm. So, the creativity becomes evidence. And again, those three things that I mentioned, paramedic and these kind of those circumstances, it seems evident. Again, they were like saying to me, why do you think we had it happen this way? Because you can't come up with this, and nobody could. We're giving you undeniable evidence. Do not wonder. Tell the story as it happened. That's it. It doesn't belong to you. It's not your story. Just tell it. And so that's where the shift is. That's where the shift in work and effort is, that I was going to eventually get to these kind of things in my life. But who knows? Maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I would have kept postponing. I was very successful at counseling, and it was very fulfilling, and I may stay with it all my life. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. When you were saying that, that's exactly what I heard, is like you were making your way to this point at some point anyway, and you had a choice that day when you came out of your office building, and you could choose to go the way you always go and kind of bypass this detour, or turn the way you did. And it was kind of, I mean, your soul orchestrated it. You knew, but you didn't know on a conscious level that it was happening. But yeah, it's like you could have waited a bunch of more lifetimes to get here, or you could have ripped the band-aid off in the most brutal of ways, as you say, and get to this place sooner. And it feels like that's the one you chose.
Yeah. And if
whatever it takes, right?
Yeah. And if I hadn't been killed and so brutally, and all these, now keep in mind that it took 7 years to even work through this stuff, to even start to stabilize. I mean, again, when I was in the coma, the doctors, okay, when my son and girlfriend showed up at the hospital, they were met by 2 doctors and a priest. Okay, when you're met in the hospital by a priest, when the doctors bring in a priest, that's bad news.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, if he ever wakes up, which he won't, by the way, no one ever has. No one has ever woke up from what he's got. No one ever has. But if he does, he'll be brain damaged. Will never be able to take care of himself. Will never not know how to walk or talk. He's going to be basically a vegetable. And so, again, there's that inspiration where these events take place and they're not about you at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while to start to figure out, like, why is this happening? But again, trying to recover from it and bounce back and learn what to do. So would I have ever eventually, I was already kind of teaching and writing on spiritual subjects. I was already kind of lecturing and teaching on all those things in my spare time, you could say. But my private practice was very dominating, for sure. I had a lot of people reaching out to me to save their lives, for God's sake. What am I going to do? Say, no, I'm busy. I got to lecture on Kabbalah,
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to, trust me, many times I wanted to, like, oh, addiction again. Come on, I'm busy. I got some Kabbalah to do. But, what can you do? I can't turn people away. So I do feel that the celestial forces were sick of my shit and said, you know what? We're not waiting anymore. You're going to do this, and we're going to kill you to do it. Do it or you're going to die again. And so again, the brutality of the events of the dark night of the soul, as dark and heavy as that can be, even while it's happening in its darkest moments, there's a part of you, not a part of you. I know while it's happening, I mean, I am in complete despair, and simultaneously acknowledging I wouldn't have it any other way. Whatever she wants to do to me, kill, suffer, beaten, bludgeon, exalt, whatever she wants, I belong to her. Whatever she wants is up to her. I don't care. That's all I want.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for just being that, for taking everything that you've experienced and everything in those first 7 years that even got you to the place to start to process it more, and just move through relearning how to be human, creating that new identity, and just everything you had to do. But thank you for sharing this message, because I really do know that we are in a interesting time in this earth and the humans on it, and we need the
Aren't you
light.
cute? Interesting time. You know what it is. It's Kali Yuga. It's pretty dark and shitty.
It's an interesting time. It's collectively.
When you recommend a movie to somebody and they say, "So, what'd you think of that movie?" You say, "Well, it's interesting."
Yeah.
That's code for, like, I'm not going to dish dirt on it, but I wouldn't go see it if I were you.
Yeah,
so,
pretty much. But it is a yin yang. It's a yin yang.
It's an interesting time. It's surreal. What's happening right now in the world is surreal. It isn't just. It's always been kind of dark and can be pretty shaky and scary. But what's happening now is like surreal. You watch the news, like, what the fuck? Every day it's like just a what the fuck moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, constantly. Like it's interesting. But we need people like you just helping to activate souls ready to come online, helping people to move through their awakening so that we can have this higher perspective on life to
Yeah.
alleviate ourselves from our suffering. I can actually, I'm taking that back. Human, to be human is to suffer, right? But it's
Yeah,
something that it's like, we just need this. We need people like you. We need, I call them activators. It's like people, are drawn to you that are ready to be opened, who are ready to, get into that more soul aligned place and live the life that their soul intended, which is all we can do. That literally is all we can do. And to walk the journey yourself, we cannot bypass that. That is the most important. I can spot people that preach it but don't walk it,
that's
and
right.
it's hard to walk it. It's way easier to post some inspiring quotes
That's
on
right.
TikTok or whatever, but to actually
And
walk it
that
is.
is very frustrating for both of us, I'm sure. That's maddening. That's what motivates me to get up and keep trying and working, because I want to give the eternal truth, and it's not just about that getting those likes.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it so much. Where can people find you if they want to work with you? I'm going to put all your links in the show notes, but where's the best place
Sure.
for people to find you?
Thank you for asking. Withintheportal.com, and there's some workshops, there's readings, the book is there, of course. And again, the book, I gave my life for this thing.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm an award-winning writer for a reason. Like, I'm a pretty good writer. And so you get not an academic scholarly book on knowledge and information. It's told in a creative narrative way that's hopefully fun and passionate and deep and somewhat dark and sometimes just kind of light. And so all this is there. And also, we're also starting a community of for eternal truth, for divine love consciousness, to teach people who are feeling kind of isolated and alone in their journey. They want the truth and nothing less. They want the eternal truth and nothing less, not fads, not buzzwords. They want the eternal truth, and this is source for them. And
Mhm.
so if you want the real deal stuff from somebody that is not trying to sell you anything, then please come to the website and let's join the community. That's what it's about.
Mhm.
So there's
Cool.
readings there, the book is there, there's workbooks there on Kabbalah and Tarot, many of those other things. I'm giving workshops all the time, live and sometimes online. And so there's workshops, and then of course join the community, subscribe to it, and again, I have a publicist that manages a lot of the business aspect of this, so we can stay alive and float and put it out there. It has to be done. It can manifest, right?
Mhm.
It isn't
Mhm.
just going to magically appear in the physical world on its own. You got to manifest it. And so, but I'm always kind of pushing back and saying to him, and he's a spiritual brother. I mean, I love the guy. And so I'm saying to him, like, look, but you've got to put something in there that says that whether they can afford to pay it or not, I'm going to let them in.
Mhm. Mhm.
So he goes, yeah, but we can't advertise. We can't, then nobody will, how are you going to survive? And I said, I don't know, but you can't tell. I'm just telling you that I'm going to let them come in either way. So hopefully people will be honest about it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate that so much. It's because, not everybody that needs desperate help has hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No.
And so many people are in it for the money first, not the helping your fellow human out, helping your fellow soul out. It's like, I just really feel that that's where your heart is at. So your Facebook, it's a Facebook community, right? That
Um,
you've just started.
no. It's a subscription. It's a
Okay.
community. It's Divine Love Consciousness, and so there's a page on the website that
Okay.
says join to subscribe on it, and it
Cool.
explains again. There's like a monthly subscription, yearly, whatever, and again, I don't manage all that. I just show up, and
Mhm.
so but then then there's something beneath that I insisted that he put on there that says whether you can afford it or not, you're gonna be welcome to join. So you just kind of
Mhm.
request it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. I love that. And I will put all the links below for the
My
book, for the, yep.
my MO when I was a counselor, yeah, a lot of people, again, the people that often need the most help don't have the resources. That's part of what they're struggling with. And so my my rule of thumb then was pay what you can afford. And most people, one guy paid me Starbucks coffee when he came to a session. That's fine. We had a nice little thing going. I got a coffee and he got his sessions. And the bottom line is I wasn't going to turn the guy away. And same thing with the spiritual
Mhm.
quest. I'm not going to turn people away.
Mhm.
But bring the coffee and pay if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you again so much. It's been such a pleasure. This conversation is so good, and I know it's going to help so many people. I will put all of your stuff below. Make sure to grab the book, join the community. It sounds like it just is a powerful place. Like you're saying, it's eternal truth. It's not fad. It's not your way. It's not the flashy system. It's the eternal truths. And this is what we need to learn and explore, finding the teacher that's right for you. But this is the stuff. This is, everyone listening, this is what your soul is leading you toward, is these real timeless eternal truths. And so thank you so much for being that.
Thank you so
teacher.
much for doing something so genuine and authentic too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode on the Awakening Her podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation between me and my guest. And if you did, we would love to hear from you. Come find us on Instagram. All the links are below in the show notes. Take a screenshot that you're listening to this episode, sharing your takeaways or your enthusiasm for the show. Tag us both over on Instagram. And if you do that, I will send you a free gift. I really do hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I will see you in the next episode.